Your list showed a tremendous amount of musicians, but only two box office stars were on there, and that was Brad Pitt and Tyler Perry. Why aren't movie stars making as much money as musicians these days?
It's actually very difficult for a film star, a traditional film star, to make as much money as a Genesis or a Sting, simply because of a trend that was starting before COVID even hit. People weren't really going to the movies as often as they had used to. And in terms of what's happened since COVID is um like theaters are still struggling, right? And we hear about it all the time with AMC trying to do this, that, and the other thing to bolster their own revenues. And so, because people aren't going to the theater as often, and during COVID, studios started releasing movies directly to streamers. When a movie goes directly to streaming, it's really convenient for a movie watcher because they can watch it from the comfort of their own home. But what it does is it cuts out the profitability of the box office. And what used to happen is an actor would make an upfront amount of money. So let's just say if I'm Cameron Diaz, I could get $10 million up front for starring in a movie. And once the movie was released to the box office, the star would then get a cut of those profits from the ticket sales. With that being cut out, movie stars these days really aren't making the majority of their money from movies. So with Brad Pitt, we see that the most of his money this year came from a majority sale of his production company Plan B. It's known for Oscar winners like 12 Years a Slave and Moonlight. And only about a third of his income, or $30 million estimated, came from films. And that's one story. The other story is Tyler Perry, who's the only billionaire on the top 10 this year. His estimated net worth is about $1 billion. And he is a very special case. He outright owns everything he makes, which is very unusual in Hollywood. And on top of that, he has his own studio backlot that he outright owns in Atlanta, Georgia. So he's able to churn out his own movies and television on the studio that he owns. And that's been incredibly lucrative for him. So, what you're seeing with film stars, if they can make as much money as some of these musicians, they've really diversified outside of just acting in order to make that money.
Why is owning everything you make unusual in Hollywood?
There's just a large number of people that go into every production. You typically have um, the studio that, actually makes the film. Then you have the distributor who puts the film in theaters. And while the film is being made, you have one director, one screenwriter, a cast of actors. And the way that these projects are come together, the rights to who owns what in a franchise or a single film or television series gets really divided up between all of the relevant parties. And with Tyler Perry, especially with his television, he writes it, he directs it, he he does everything, And when it came to, the Medea movie franchise that he's very well known for, again, Medea was a character he invented that originated as stage plays he would perform across the country. So he's built a model of ownership that's very, very rare in this day and age.
All these people that you've mentioned are icons. So I do want to dive a little deeper here. How much of this, to be on this top list, is about sheer talent and popularity versus making good business deals behind the scenes?
It's got to be a little bit of column A and column B, and it depends on which part of the industry you're speaking about. If you're a musician like a Taylor Swift, the more popular you get, the more leverage you have when negotiating record deals, when signing endorsement deals, and the amount that you can demand goes up. The only newcomer to our top 10 this year is the Puerto Rican rap star Bad Bunny, who, after being the highest streamed artist around the world over the past few years, grossed an astonishing 400 million through two tours he did last year alone, which, after the fees that we deduct for agents and managers and lawyers, which every star tends to have, give or take, there's individual setups, of course. That netted him $88 million, which is an incredible amount of money for someone who a few years ago was hugely popular in what maybe the Western world would call like the Latin music scene. But he's really proven he's got mainstream global popularity on the same level as any of these other stars that have come up through the ranks through the years.